Hello everyone, welcome to the stream. Today we've got Max Oris with us, or is it, how do you say the last name?
I like how everybody mispronounces it, so we'll keep it a mystery.
Okay.
Like I feel like that's. I think I should make Sergey's pronunciation of it like the official, and threaten everybody with cease and desist if they don't pronounce it exactly like Sergey does.
Yeah. So yeah, we're going to be talking about crypto art, censorship. Max is in beautiful LA. It's very sunny there, it looks lovely. But we'll start with the kind of where we always start, which is how did you get into art? How did you discover and kind of this be the sort of thing that you wanted to do?
I mean, I think it was always that thing that is like, like what is art? Artists are cool, right? Like, I mean, always like admired it. And I went and did like the business route for a while, or, I mean, it wasn't that business, did the whole like 4 hour work week and whatever. But I don't know, like, I guess like art is like one of those things that I think just strikes you when you got like nothing else, and I feel like that's kind of the what it is for me, and that's a lot of like what I try to like live by, and sort of like kind of just see everybody through the lens of like the artist, like one of my mom's favorite songs ever is La Boheme,
Yeah.
and I remember like translating that, and I just like hit like Google Translate or whatever, and I was translating the words, and I was like, "Fuck," right? And it's just like it's that like got nothing, like living in a dingy shithole, whatever. But then like later on in life, when it's like me and Pac or whoever, like maybe it's Tupac, or just like hanging out and just being like, man, remember when, right? And it's kind of like that's how I feel about like me and Robness is like right now, but I'm getting a little too off topic. But like, I mean, I don't know what is art, right? Like everyone's trying to like, including me, arguing about like what is art.
Yeah.
And I'm just, like I basically started painting like after my first ayahuasca San Pedro experience.
Yeah.
So I did like fine art just to kind of like hang in that world too, of just being like, yo, like look at this shit, right? It's like this is like argue against that, right?
Yeah.
But even before that, I did like a really weird show where it was like I announced an art show, right? And I was like, everybody come, and like I didn't have any money at the time. I was like living in my car, and I took these like little like they look like passports, but they're like Muji notebooks that I got like Muji, and I would like draw shit on them, right? And I was like, I made 101 of those. I ended up making like 101 of those, and it was just like whatever I was feeling at the time. I was
Yeah.
eating a ton of mushrooms at the time. I was like doing a whole bunch of like weird shit, and I was just like, I'm gonna infuse these things with like this energy of like joy and like what I want people to like feel when they interact with it. So like I had a show, and people were like, where's the art? And I was just like, I have these passports that I drew, and like uh
And when was that? How
like
long
what's his
ago
name?
was it that
Spider.
you had that show?
Oh, that one was on. I remember it clearly because it was like February 29th. It was like once in a, it was Ichigo Ichie, once in a lifetime kind of shit, where it was like, leap year, 2016. And it was this like crazy ass thing. I took a piece of copal, which is, sort of like ceremonial, and I lit it at 7:07 p.m. It's kind of like even the art show that I'm having in a few days is just like 9:09. And like the gallerist, my friend was just like, yo, like, weird day, Wednesday, and I'm just kind of like, right. And so, I mean, I just like, I don't know, like I feel like art is just this like ineffable thing that everybody pretends to know what the fuck it is, but then like it like the I don't know, we're all like surfing the wave of what it actually is, which is I feel like maybe like God personified, and I'm not like really a theist myself, but
Yeah.
well, I'll say it like that.
Mhm. Yes, and so, did you, before you got into art, you went to law school, is that correct? How did that come about, and did you find that useful at all? And
Well, I mean, I kind of like I did the like the prison system, also known as like enforced learning or whatever. So
yeah,
like I graduated University of Florida, and I was on a bike. I called my mom up, and I'm like, now what? I'm like, I graduated, and I ran up the scoreboard with a 4.0. Like I remember I had to fight for it too because I didn't give a shit at the end, and I was just like went into the like and I was just like, give me this A, and he was just like, you don't deserve it. And I was like, I know, but I still want it, you know? So, but anyway, like that got me into law school because basically I was on the phone with my mom. I was just like, what do I do with my life? And she's like, well, I was a lawyer. Like, why don't you go to law school? And I was like, all right, cool. You know, took the bar exams, you know, like the next week. I didn't really fucking study for it. And then, I mean, the truth of it is I was playing Snood and Grand Theft Auto.
Mhm.
And then I was also, you know, like writing case law bullshit in school. And then I was kind of like, okay, do I like want to catch up and just like, you know, go to the library and whatever? And, you know, I just had this moment. I'm just like, I'm going to hire these fucking attorneys. Like if I, you know, like I'll do it where it's like that, you know, because I wasn't really enjoying it. So I dropped out and I felt like this burden weight lift off, you know, because the other thing too, and this is like probably what informed some of my art too, is I was feeling like there's like, especially with tort law, like I felt this like vampirism coming up my neck, trying to take over like how I think about life in the world, you know, which was just like in the series of like rights and wrongs and who should pay for what and all this different shit, you know, and I was just kind of like, nah, not with it. So I kind of went to like, you know, the pretend gangster GTA route.
So how did you decide that you weren't going to do law school? Was it just a sudden decision overnight, or did you kind of, like you said, it was this gradual feeling? What made the kind of journey, and how was that in between that point? Between the point of becoming an artist and leaving school.
Well, I mean, I didn't become an artist, and I mean, because this was '02, right? So like between, but this is kind of where it becomes relevant. I feel like, right? Is I'm like, okay, well, before I leave law school, I should maybe go talk to the dean, right? And she, so I went to her office, you know, and she's like, and I expected her to just be like, stay, you know, we need more lawyers or whatever, you know. And she's like, well, what are you gonna do? And I was like, hey, you know, look, can we pull up? Do you have a, you know, whatever it was, Netscape or whatever the fuck it was at the time, you know? And I was like, here, I want to show you like my website, and it was called like Liquidfinity back in the day. Like, and I showed her some of my art that I was making with like Photoshop. And at the time, it was like my girlfriend. And you know, it was super cheesy. It was like on a rose, and she had like wings and stuff. And it was like a picture of her naked on the bed that I then like made into this thing. And she saw it, and she was just like, "Yeah, you should go do that." Yeah. And I was like, "Whoa, you're not going to tell me to like go to law school?" And she's like, "Nah." But I mean, literally, it'd be, you know, another 2 decades before I actually like did that. You know what I mean? Like, kind of took the other route and kind of did the you know, the maybe more responsible shit, you know, which I turned into more responsible shit and etc.
And then we got to this point. So when did you kind of find crypto and blockchain? And was it the same sort of show that you did, that you met Robness, or when did that come about?
So yeah, I was actually trying to like figure this out a little recently. So I think I got it right. It was like 2016 is when a good friend of mine, Jacob, he was kind of involved with like some so he was kind of like always in that world, and I was like, oh, and you know what he did? He was like, okay, you can just like poop on a wall and it's an ICO, right? And so it was like that. So that like there was that kind of like bonanza of it, you know, and I started learning everything about it. I was like reading this shit about like what it is and like blah blah blah, and I didn't get it, you know, and I was like, okay, but it's interesting. There's so many different like layers to it, and I wanted to do an ICO. I realized that like for me to do that would be, sorry, I'm like walking into the house here.
No, that's okay.
Like, for me to do that. Yeah, I saw that. That's why I was like, okay, let's get a better pipe going. But like, here's the thing, right? Is like, I realized that like I wouldn't have anything interesting to like bring to the space. Like I didn't have any, you know, I didn't know the technology. So for me to like pretend to do an ICO would have just been disingenuous and bullshit, you know? So I kind of just gave that up and let it all simmer in my brain for probably about 8 months until and I remember I was like at a coffee shop and I was like looking a little bit into it again, and I was like, ooh, art, right? Yeah. Super rare. And I just had this moment, and I was just like, I got to be in this. I got to do this thing. It doesn't matter if I don't think my art's that good right now. I just got to be in this game.
Yeah. And then what year was that you kind of got into crypto art?
2018. So
Okay. Oh, so
2018
like right at the
summer, yeah,
beginning. Yeah.
August. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And then before that, when? So you said you heard about crypto during the ICO craze. Were you kind of a buyer of any particular cryptocurrency, or did it just kind of start from the crypto art?
Nah,
No.
not. I mean, I just kind of was like an observer, right? Like back in the day, like back in my business world or whatever, like I was an observer, like studying everything about like search engines for, God, years before I jumped into it, or even like, sort of put my horse in the game.
Yeah.
So same thing here. I kind of like studied it a lot, but I knew that the art thing was going to be really interesting. And really, like what happened was my friend, he sent me $10 worth of Ethereum, and at the time that was enough to like mint a bunch of stuff and kind of
Yeah, that
like,
was enough to mint quite a lot. Not now. That's like one artwork.
yeah, yeah, exactly, right. But it's like it's to say it's just like, okay, $10 of Ethereum, here you go, and that's what
Yeah.
I've turned this all into so far. So.
I mean, and that kind of leads me to the next question: is how do you find crypto art? But then talk to me like a little bit about the early days of crypto art. How was that at the beginning, when the early 2018, and forming a community? Because when I looked around at the websites and the competition out there, it was a very different vibe to what it is now. It was a lot more kind of people. I would almost say that what's become known as trash art was like the most prevalent type of art at that time.
So, it was really like what happened is like there weren't a lot of buyers, right? I mean, there were some, and I feel like it was kind of, in a way, it was like a pure scene because I feel like it's just like we were all kind of like trying to do this thing, and like my friends, like, and this is like to me, like Oficinas, TK, Elon, like that's my like core OG crew, right? Where
Yeah.
it's like we were just kind of like we didn't even talk that much, but we were just like doing this thing and we didn't know what it was going to turn into. And, like I think my first piece sold for, I don't even know what, like $15 worth of, like, I don't know what that is. It's not a lot, but we started to sell and we were kind of like, this is cool. Like, all right, and it didn't really blow up for a long time. Like now it's blowing up, but I feel like it was a lot of experimentation. There was a lot of experimental stuff. Like even with me, I was just like, oh, let's try this, let's try that. I did some like AI stuff, and that was like really fun because it was just like kind of just, yeah, very experimental, like.
Yeah. There's almost
and,
no
and
pressure to worry about appeasing sort of any buyers or anything like that. You're just creating for the raw fun of it.
exactly.
Mm. I know that's really cool. So, going forward a little bit, what are your thoughts on the crypto art space now? How do you think it's changed, and do you think that there's a positive change, or do you think that there's a way that it's become more negative, or yeah, what are your thoughts on the progression of it all?
Man, that's a loaded question because it's all of the above, man. Like I feel like anytime you throw art and money into the mix, it gets like really interesting. And this is sort of like a direct, Frankenstein marriage of the two.
Yeah,
So, um, yeah, it's like it's a lot more interesting, and I feel like you kind of have to keep it interesting. Like for me, I went through this like phase recently where I was just kind of like, man, I'm fucking bored, man. Just like there's just like nothing happening. So then I just kind of, I think like I channeled, some of the fucking hip hop, and I was just kind of like, all right, like let's have some fun here. Let's do some interesting shit, and like, and I feel like I still stand by this fucking statement is like I think crypto art needs a lot more hip hop, man.
yeah,
Like or like a lot more kind of edge to it because like that's what it sort of became this like appease the fucking gallerists, whatever, and I'm kind of like to what for what like why can't we just like, and this is kind of like what my whole thing is just like as an artist you get to say whatever and you get to have actually fucking emotions because like you create out of the richness of the entire shit, and if you're just like blah, 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 like cool, like that's your expression at the time.
yeah. Oh no, cool. Yeah, that leads me quite next easily to the next thing is you've been blocked and banned and censored from a few more punk. Uranus Oyster says. Yeah, we need definitely more punk in the scene.
For sure, 1,000%. Yeah.
So what? Yeah, you've been blocked and banned and censored for a few times by platforms. Why do you think this is? Why do you think this keeps happening? Or talk us back to the first time. Why did you get banned for the first time?
Oh man, what? Let's see. Let's try to figure out what happened. We were banned for the first time. Robness probably has a better idea of what actually was going on. Like for me, what was the thing that got me banned? Oh, I could like feel it come. Oh, it was copyright stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like basically, and I think like everyone's got their own story about this shit, but basically like Zach Yanger was like in the super rare thing, and he was kind of like, well, and I think the thing that really got me is he was just like, well, you have to like attribute, everybody, even in like public domain, and even like and like I kind of get where he's coming from, because you want to respect the artists and stuff, but like I feel like the whole conversation about it was, I was just like, it was super heavy handed about. And this was also due to the fact that I started creating, there's like a few pieces I call Psycho Wave, which is like me just putting on, like literally I was just like, after my show, I was like high as fuck, like last year. And I was just like, okay, like Psycho Wave, like, I'm like, where did that come from? Where did that inspiration come from? I don't own it, but it was like, okay, let's do Psycho Wave. So I kind of went like into like Photoshop, and I was like, here's all these right, and it's kind of this massive sensory overload of all these different influences and these things, and I was like listening to Psychowave music. It was literally called, like, I just Googled it, I was like Psychowave, and like right, and it was kind of like, it was that what the fuck, what is it? I'm blanking on the style of music where it's just like super drug fueled, super intense, like it always reminds me of like Thailand, like deep
Like,
jungle parties.
the Prodigy kind of thing, like drum and bass.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
what, like Vinny Vici, Adana,
Oh,
like
okay, yeah.
they what do you call that? It's like super fucking intense, whatever. Well, but like it was, yeah, it was kind of like that. I was just like, and it's kind of like you're sort of like accelerating time if you can like keep up with it, and so I started doing that, and I was just thinking about like my Psychowave piece, and I'm just kind of like, for me to become an accountant of my own art, of where these things came from, is like, I'm like, I didn't, I could have gone to accounting school. No, dude, like this is art, and that's kind of like where it came from. Is so I kind of took a stance about that, of just like, well, no, I think like we're entering a new area of art where, and this is sort of, this is a while ago, like in crypto art time. This is like, what is it, like 8 months ago or something like that?
This is like, it's in a whole lifetime ago in crypto art time.
Yeah, this is like that era, right? And we're in a whole different area, but it's related, but it's, but it's kind of like I got banned for, I got banned for straight up for telling Zach Yanger to go fuck himself. When Robness and I were having a conversation on Telegram about something, and we're just like really intense, like blah 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 blah, and he was just like, and I think Zach was just like, can you guys go take these conversations somewhere else? And I was kind of like, go fuck yourself, Zach. And like, and I think that's really what got me banned from Super Rare. Let's be real, right? Like and that's the thing. Like it's about what. Man, this goes deep into kind of like the last band too, but I'll listen for your question again, because I'm like,
No. And actually, I was just take a little bit of a detour. Is what you talked a little bit about influences. What are your artistic influences? Are there any artists that inspire you a lot?
I would say, like, truly, I would say like street artists. Are probably like my favorite, and kind of like, I think it started with kind of like Bamski. Like when I was homeless, I would literally just write like Bamski with like C's.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it was like the same C's, but it was kind of like that. But it was kind of also like a commentary on the commercialization of Bamski, Bamski.
Banksy?
And
do you mean
Bamski? I used to like, I always mispronounce Banksy's, because I just imagine like some poor grandmother like trying to buy something cool for her kids or something, you know, and she's like, what is it, a Babansky, what do they want, you know? And so the whole thing is just kind of like, you know, I go like take a piss on this, you know, like as it's happening, you know, and like people have like, you know, they're telling me like I'm destroying the art scene, and I'm just kind of like, motherfucker, like go to a concert, you know, go to like some real shit, like this stuff about like there's no destroying art, there's no destroying a community, you know. It's like we need a lot more like a little spicy salsa, you know.
But okay, so yeah, that brings us in. Sorry, we're talking about influences. We'll get back to that. But so the second band, the more recent one, how did that come about? Is it similar reasoning, or what happened this time? Because I think on Twitter there's a lot of fiery emotion, and especially Robness's all caps tweets make things seem like, because I've spoken to you guys are super chill, and I think it seems like from that people think, oh my god, they're taking it so seriously, when actually it's always a little bit more chilled out than that.
Well, and it's more like there's a moment recently that I kind of just decided to start making art for like, I kind of decided to make art for people who are like artists and who really like get things on deep levels, right? So I kind of was like, that's my audience now, right? I'm like, fuck all this, everyone else. I'm just like, I'm gonna start making it for just some clever cats, you know, that not just like intellectually clever, but just like are in the space and they kind of understand what's happening. And the piece that got me banned was basically, you know, to anyone who doesn't like live this stuff or know it like intimately or feel it, like it might seem just kind of like, oh well, this is the thing, but like that's never the story, right? That piece is a remix of a piece that I did on Rarible as a commentary between the relationship of Super Rare and Rarible at the time. And like, you know, people like point the thing at the moon, and it's like, well, first of all, that's not a moon. Like, second of all, you know, like you pointing to the thing is not it. And it's like the piece that got me banned is a remix of No Love, right? And No Love is a piece on Rarible that I did about the space, where I just kind of like, I took, and I started with like Pac's logo, right? Because I was just like, well, here's this guy, he's like earning a lot of money, but he's like not really like, he doesn't seem to be like engaging with the artist or like wanting to kind of, you know, and I was like, okay. So it kind of reminded me of like my one-off job of like being a fucking server at a Louis Vuitton opening, you know, like my ex like fucking got me to do this stupid thing where I was just like, okay, I'm gonna go do this thing for money, and it was just the most like macabre, disgusting, grotesque thing of like people with stupid amounts of money coming in and just being like, oh, I would like to buy a purse, you know, and I'm like, and I'm just over there just like, I'm like, motherfuckers are starving right now, and I have these things that I had to like learn how to pronounce these pieces of shit for you, and you're not even interested, you don't care, that's like, you know. And so like, so I put that, like I took a big Louis V logo and I like slapped it like onto, so I was like, okay, start with the Lock logo, you know, like Hackatow. I took it and I like remixed it quite a bit, like, you know, in my own sense. I was like, okay, well, you know, I've always had this thing with like fair use. So I like, the body is sort of like an X-Men reconfiguration of the thing. And at the same time, I was also kind of like the whole Nifty Gateway thing, you know. I was like, okay, this is like the boiler room of NFT art. Cool. Like I'll grab something from that. So like I went and I saw his piece, and it was like it's a scam, which is like that to me. It's like I reached out to this cat like years ago.
Who Pack?
I think Hackatow.
Hackatow, yeah.
And like on Telegram, and I was like, hey, like, because I think I was like low on funds or something, and I was like, can I like give you a piece or something? Like, I just need like $10 so I could whatever, or something. It was something like that, you know. And he's just like, it's a scam, and I was just like, bitch, you know. So that was kind of like, that kind of started it for me, because I was like, oh, okay, I'm like an artist on this platform with you, and like you think I'm like trying to scam you for some fucking money, whatever. Yeah, and I was like, so that kind of I think was like a big, deep rooted piece of it, you know. So like I took the it's a scam piece. I was like, cool. And I was like, well, I'm gonna like fuck it up and kind of do my own thing to it, where people, when you look at it, you wouldn't, it's like, oh, what is that? Because it's kind of like, I think my favorite tool is content aware tool, right?
Yeah.
Like, to me, in Photoshop, that's like my go-to for everything. And I'm like giving away the trade secret here, but it's not a trade secret. It's like literally just like fill shit with other shit that looks like shit,
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, it's like my favorite thing. Like, if I'm gonna become the fucking POC of something, it's just like, yo, this motherfucker just uses content aware, right? And I'm like, yeah, I'm content aware.
Yeah.
So I basically like, I used it and I like how it came out because it was kind of like jaggedy and weird, and you're just like, I don't know what the fuck that is. And I threw it on super rare because by this point I'm like, the whales like aren't buying my shit, because I'm not like, hello, Mr. Whale Shark, I'm like, I'm not that motherfucker. Like, like, ooh, what can I throw up some more VRs for you? Like, fuck that, man. I didn't get into this business to do that shit. I got into this business to make art, man. So like, so I basically was just like, and I put it up, and I knew it wouldn't sell for much on Super Rare, because I'm like, I'm not one of the golden boys. I'm not, I call it like the golden geese of Super Rare. I'm not one of those cats. And somebody bought it, and I was like, great. Sometime later, I got a call about a different thing from John, and I'm just kind of like, I don't know. Like, I feel sometimes like I feel kind of like, oh man, but at the same time, I'm like, we're all fucking adults here, man. Like, you knew what this was like coming back. You knew what I was gonna make, like, interesting fucking art. It's just this time I kind of like put the mirror back on a Super Rare, and I think that's really like kind of like what it was. It was like no love between these fucking OG artists that are kind of like milking the whale money, and like I called it no, bracket edit love. So it's like, I can't edit your shit even, whatever. And it's kind of like that. It's just this like statement fucking piece. And John was telling me about it. He's basically was like, okay, Hackatow like really needs this piece. Like, he's upset. Hackatow's upset. We need you to burn it. And I was just like, motherfucker, over my dead body, you're gonna burn it. And he was like, well, we're gonna contact the collector or whatever. So immediately I bought it back from the collector. I was like, I'm gonna buy this piece back. He made a very quick like 400% profit on it or something. And then I sent it to Robness.
Yeah.
Basically, because I was like, okay, you're gonna have to talk to me and Robness about this now if you really want it.
Send it and lock it away in the vault of the guy who's
exactly the Robness.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I'm like, okay, so now you got to go up against, like, you got to convince me and Robness to, like, that this is a bad thing or whatever. And then they 404'd it. They basically took it off. And then it became this like macabre fucking thing for like 4 days, where it's like Whale Shark came in and it was just like, I will no longer do the art thing with you, And I was just like, I was yelling at John about that shit, because I was like, y'all are getting played here. Like, y'all like build this fucking gallery, but like don't play these pieces, like games.
My view on that is whale chasing is one way that we can make this industry a real flash in the pan. Like, they think that they're building it up, but not only does it build some artists up to unsustainable levels, when genuine art collectors from the rest of the kind of art market come in and see this, they're not just going to look at the numbers. That's what I think a lot of, because a lot of people are coming from a trading background and they don't know how art actually works, and it's very unlikely that people are going to come in and just go, oh, sold for this, therefore worth this. They're going to do a deep dive. They're going to work out why people are worth that. They're going to work out their influences. They're going to work out their background. And it's not just number on chart, which is going to be why someone's important or why someone sells. And I think that they're making a big mistake putting all of their faith in a few individuals.
And that's exactly it, right? And I feel like this is where like BAE, is going to have the moment in the sun with that too. Is I feel like once the art history hordes come through, they're going to be like, oh, okay, it's not just about like the numbers, or it's just, and it's about like the relevancy of the fucking time, and it's all this, and it's kind of like I don't know. I feel like that's gonna come through where you're probably, or BAE is probably gonna like be influential in the actual art world that is like has a certain type of lens, and it's like it's all gonna like meld together. I feel like
no, definitely. I think we're all gonna become part of the. That's what we're all quite interlinked. Like all the galleries, we're tiny, whether we like it or not. You learn about one of us, you learn about all of us. Like you can't keep the secret or the cat in the bag. There's no point. It's like people will know. as soon as they come on BAE, I mean, they generally find us through Google, which is quite good. But then the next day, they'll know about Known Origin, and then they know about Rareable, and then they're kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is I feel like, you know, at the end of the day, it's like it's good for everybody to, like, for me this is, you know, like for me this is like my life and it's interesting. Like I was in Vegas, you know, like, have you ever seen the movie The Aviator where like DiCaprio's like, you know, watching his own movies or something, you know? And I was kind of like, I was in that mode in Vegas where I was just like, my nails were getting long and I was like, crypto art, this pretty, you know? And I was just, but I was so engaged with it because it was so interesting. Because it's like, okay, there's crypto Twitter, and then like blah blah blah, and then it's like making, you know, art and like making moves with the art and making it about like being a performance piece, but it's also my life and all these different things. And like, it's just so engaging, right? And I want crypto art to be engaging because it's like, I don't even know what motherfuckers like. I don't know. Do they like? They're bored with their lives, go home and turn on Netflix, you know? It's just like, well, there's like, let's and I was just like, fuck that bitch, you know? Like, fuck that whole lifestyle. Like, engage, create what the future of art is, become a part of it. And I think that's where like crypto art for me is so fascinating. That's kind of like, you know, a lot of people think I'm probably an asshole or something, but I'm just kind of like, no, dude, like this is like, be you and
Well, yeah, I
be
think
full you.
people misunderstand it a lot, and then a lot of people who are kind of, I mean, it tells a lot when an artist who's making tons of money is worried about someone else possibly maybe using a little bit of their work to make, and also makes a little bit of money. It's like and you're not, you know, it's not even really copyright infringement. It's just you were kind of heavily inspired by it. I think it says a lot about them, to be honest.
Well, and that's, I mean, the whole piece is about that, right? It was actually about like for the, because and the people who get it, they get it, you know, kind of like some people like hit me up on DM, they're like, oh, I get it, right? And I'm like, yeah, that's for you, right? Like it's for you, that whole art. It's not about the thing. And like the crazy thing about it, the ironic thing about it is like, you know, from like a super rare got paid their fee, and then the collector got paid because I bought the art back because I was like, Jesus, like this is now a part of the conversation.
Yeah.
And it's now in the Robness vault. And it's in the Robness vault also because like, you know, the whole trash art thing movement started because he had my back, you know? And I had a moment where I was like, okay, this is like a historical piece. And I was just like, well, of course, give it to Robness. Like why wouldn't I? He's my homie. Yeah. And like, he had my back. Like, least I can do is like stack his, you know, band 404 art vault, you know, because like I think we're all gonna be fine. It's just like, yeah, it's, I don't know, like the people who are arguing about what art is and isn't, like it isn't all these things. It's this like profound thing that we're all getting to play inside of. And I think like one of the things for me that is important is to like shake up the what everyone thinks it is or whatever, you know. And I'll always do that. It's like I don't care what, you know, platform comes around next. It's just like I'm probably gonna like shake the tree, you know, that I'm in.
Because recently you did something quite funny on Known Origin with so they have a system for collaboration where you can you just put the person's address, right? You don't even have to. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about what happened there, because I like as well their reaction wasn't, oh, let's ban Max. It was, okay, we've got to sort out our system. We've
exactly right. And I was just like, it's like hacker shit, right? Like I have, but like I'm not a hacker. I just like I love hackers because I think they're like fucking brilliant and figure shit out, and you know, and like one of my really good friends is that like we're probably going to do some things together just because I have that sort of like, if people like love artists, I love hackers because they're just like, whoa, like you traverse these worlds in these ways that like I can't even fathom, you know. And we're going to go on the moon. I think we're buying real estate on the moon is actually in 2040 is kind of a thing. Yeah. Bang Rocks I think is there. I'm just getting involved with it a little bit just because I like, he's my friend, I love him, and like, and we're gonna do a whole bunch of shit, like all of us. But back to the question. I get a little
no, that's okay. Actually, Bruce the Goose, hey Bruce, how you doing? Says crypto art is literally the best thing that has ever happened to me. Art should have a definition beyond someone was inspired to create something and wanted to share it with the world. So yeah, what do you think about that? Like I guess that's kind of what we're talking about, is that people are trying to define and pigeonhole it when it's actually this whole lexicon of it means something different to someone else.
Absolutely, right. And it's like, and it's the I mean, my message is like, no, do you, like, fucking do, you know, like, there's all this out there, there's all these like weird mimetic things about like the real things, but then they become not about the real things, they become about some other bullshit that somebody else is trying to sell, you know. And it's just like that whole thing about like cultural appropriation, right? I'm like, if I want to wear a fucking headdress, that's between me and the fucking Eagles.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's sort of the like, because we're not talking about the real shit that's happening, and I've seen enough of it, and I've like been, you know, and I'm just like, and it's like if we're making about like, you know, like cultural appropriation or racism or like what's really lost is like the question about like, where are you thinking in for yourself and figuring this shit out? You know, like a lot of things about like Bitcoin, a lot of like crypto is sort of this like the self-determination, which I fucking love, right? And it's kind of like, yeah, it's the self-determination of like, where in the world like are you, and then like let's keep expanding. And it's not about, you know, like pigeonholing. Like I've been to gallery shows, dude, like it's a bunch of rich fucking assholes like drinking wine, and a bunch of like people, you know, being like, let's sell this motherfucker on this 30,000 from an, and I was just like, I hate it, man. It sucks, right? And it's like, for me, I don't want the art world to become, or like the crypto art world, Jesus, to become like another version of that. It's like, let's all have some fun. And it's like, I love egos, you know. I'm just kind of like, show your ego. Like, what is it about? Where do you come from? You want to make some like weird fucking Polish art, you know, that I just saw like on Instagram, this kid's, and I was just like, I'm like, I don't have anywhere to place it because it doesn't fit my, but I'm like, that's perfect. That's exactly it. Like like, let's have more of that kind of shit, because it's like, it's going to expand all of our consciousnesses.
I think that's really true. I like the whole freedom that crypto art offered, and there was this huge influx of new kinds of artwork and kind of different ways of viewing things. It would be a shame if it kind of consolidated down to this is what acceptable, and then a few gatekeepers decided that this is what they wanted because this is what they bought already, and nothing was ever challenging them to buy new stuff. Like,
right?
that's how the well of creativity dries up. It's not letting new people who do weird things in.
And it, like, I keep thinking of like Kendrick Lamar, like you're talking about inspirations, right? Like Kendrick Lamar is an inspiration. Like I remember like crying to myself in my fucking van because I was just like beaten by life and beaten by myself too, and like all of it. And it was just like, and I just remember I just was like sobbing, and I like turned up some Kendrick, and I was just like, and I didn't have his life experience, but the energy with which he fucking like rapped, sang it, storytelled, all of it, I was just like, fuck, right? And it was this like, it was like a soul nourishment that I needed at the time, because even though I was going through a completely different thing, I could feel the realness in his craft, and I could feel like where, you know, like, and it just was like, and like my soul was satisfied, you know. And there's like a line in where, fuck is it? I was like, if I'm on my knees, there ain't no to do, like, if I'm on my knees, there ain't no need to do this, something like that, right? And it's kind of like how I feel about this shit. Is just like, if I'm on my knees to these whales, like, why am I even fucking doing this, man? You know, like have the to stand up and be like. And I think like to this, you know, like if there is, I don't really like the word legacy, but it's like, if there's a legacy, it's like the true genius of an artist is an artist to say, this is art.
Yeah.
And if anybody else is like, no, that's not art, it's like, well, he already said it because he's an artist, right? And like, and it gets super multidimensional, because basically to be acknowledged as an artist, you know, it's like, that's its own craft. And, you know, it's kind of like one of the things that, in a way, like I now am known as like an artist, right? So like it allows me, like the wash trade thing that I did with Robness, you know, a lot of people think they know what it's about, but it's, you know, it's about a lot of things. It's a lot about like, because in it too, I was like, you know, nobody talks about like jealousy and different things. They see people doing better, you know, and it's like, but we're all experiencing that to a certain degree. And sorry, I
Yeah.
just saw like a fly, I think, just shat on my keyboard, and I'm just like,
Oh, lovely.
or a plant or something. I don't know.
But yeah, that's true. I think that people aren't very honest, aren't 100% honest with themselves a lot of the time with the reasoning for feeling some way or doing something. And I think going back to what I was saying is I think on Twitter people often think they know what people's emotions are, and when you do something quite simple, like a lot of people said, because you did that thing of Known Origin where you were, combining yourself with other artists without permission, you were automatically just trying to sell your artwork for more by attaching yourself to more valuable
Yeah.
people, and it's like, no, I don't think that was the point. Like, yeah,
Yeah, exactly, right. And it's like, it's because one is I knew that that's how it worked because I've been in the game, and I was like, oh yeah, I can do this, right? And I kind of was like, and I really didn't. It's interesting that that piece has become this like seminal piece because like all things is just like I'm just like doing things that I think are interesting, and like I had done this with like Yelly, right? And like Yelly is like I love her as an artist. She's actually like the reason that Crypto Art 2020 is still happening. Like I canceled it, and then I was just like, well, Yelly's still coming, so like let's like just hang out, right? Like
yeah,
just go to the studio, and that's kind of what it is. It's like it's not really a proper show by any means, and I keep trying to destroy the idea of what a show is too, like as I'm doing it, because I'm just like, how little of zero fucks can I give about what that is?
yeah.
And I just want to like hang out with people I like, you know. So like Robin is going to be, it's interesting. I was like, today I went in the gallery and, I'm like looking around the paintings and I'm like, do we take these down? Do we keep them up? Do we throw like an AR layer on it and whatever? And I guess it remains to be seen. Like there's like moments where I was just like, this thing is going to be a clusterfuck and everyone's going to be like, Max Osiris is an idiot and a failure. And then
But
like,
then, if anything, that can play into the part of the art. I mean, after doing about 20 shows, I can tell you it's very difficult to do an art show differently because there's in the end you are showing a visual thing, so it's quite hard to do that in a way that's never been done before. But it all, even if you do VR, AR, whatever, it all boils down to look at this thing.
So I keep thinking today. I remember this. I don't remember what year it was, in the 2010s sometime, right? Like I decided to go to Paris to go see Crazy Horse 3, right? Which is I just saw it like on a DVD cover, and I'd been to the Vegas show, and I was like, what's like some cool like eroticism in my life? It's like life becomes great but dull, and then you got to switch it up. So I was like, okay, let's go to Paris and let's go see Crazy Horse 3. So I did, and it's like it's Louboutins and boobs and asses and all that, and it's marvelous stuff. But the guy who stole the show is this dude, and I love him, and that's kind of my inspiration for Crypto Art 2020. Is like he would do these like, and it was in between all the girls, and he would just kind of like he would like attempt this grand thing, right? Like with the balloons, and it would be like poof, and he'd be like meh, right? And he would just keep doing that, right? And he's just like, so that's basically kind of like, I'm throwing a party, it's going to be some cool people there, and if anybody like shows up and they don't like it, I'm just like, well.
Yeah, I mean, it's very rare someone would show up and outwardly say something awful. I think it would be good. I think it would be interesting. That would be quite an intense thing for someone to just turn up and be like, I hate everything you've done here.
No, because earlier today it was so hot. It's so hot in LA. Apparently, like, are we like warming the earth or something? I don't know.
Yeah.
Something's happening, right? But like, and it's I was like looking around, and I was like, okay, and this is like one of the ideas. I was just like, take all the art off the walls, right? And just like it's a blank open space, and people are like, oh, okay, here for the art, and I'd be like, oh, it's on your phone, and it'd be like this whole like dumb like thing. But then it's a little too POC for me, because I'd be like, well, so it's like whatever. I love throwing like a little POC jab in once in a while. Because like, and can I talk about this a little bit?
Yeah.
Right, it's like, okay. So like the pixel, right? I was kind of like,
Oh yeah, so the red pixel. That's yeah.
or it was the alpha pixel or something. I don't know. Like I just kind of, I don't really pay much attention. I just like sort of, do my shit. And then, and then somebody was just like, and I think I saw it as like a publicity stunt,
Yeah.
honestly, because
Which
I
is
was
what
like,
it is
okay,
normally
well,
in art as well, the mainstream art world. When you see those really big minimalism works, they're done as a publicity stunt. I mean, it worked because we're talking about it right now, but
yeah, for
it's yeah,
sure.
yeah. But it
But
is one of
it's
the
like,
oldest artistic tricks for getting PR.
yeah, it's just, I think there's like a way to do it that's kind of like lame. And like for me, that's what I saw that as, is I was just like, okay, this is like, because every fucking designer, I feel like, because I've had this moment and I feel like every designer, maybe that's the genius of it, maybe, I don't know. But it's like, I was like, ooh, what if I like just like made it big and then like, and then, and I sold the nothing, and I just saw it as like a fucking cheap parlor trick. And I was just like, cool, man, like, wow, now you're talking about it, like everyone's talking about it, like, great. And like, okay, so like the gallerist like wants some attention, and I'm like, okay, cool, like make some art, man, like
Yeah,
I'm kind of, or like the buyer, I'm kind of like, you really want to get into the conversation, make some art, like, and then make it interesting, and make it, and that's a whole different playing.
well, I think that's a whole
That's a whole,
different
and that's
game.
basically like me right now. I'm basically telling Pablo, I'm like, Pablo, level up, make art,
Yeah,
like actually produce art. You know what I mean? That's
yeah.
that's a whole different thing. Because I've had the money, I was an asshole with it. I'm not saying he is, because I don't know, like I don't know what they're doing, right? But the thing is like at the end of the day, I'm kind of like, have a conversation, right? Like let's have a conversation, and like with everybody, like Hackatow on the artist side, or like Pac on the artist side, and I'm like, oh, because like truly the people that are like my friends are people who have like chilled with, and or people who have like through thick and thin, like over time online, have just like showed their values to be something that's more than just sort of like, let me milk the system, or like let me whatever, and it's like at the end of the day, like I was at this house, I was living with this guy, he was like a 5-time Grammy award winning, like super, and I just like chilled with him. He's just like you and me, just like a dude, and he's just like, he just wants to do it for the craft. And I
Yeah.
kind of like, I remember, he just wants to hang out with some beers backstage and like talk about the shit that he geeks out with, and that's kind of like what it is for me too, is I'm just like, this is all like a big, show, and I enjoy it too, like somebody used the word showboating, and I was like, okay, boomer, like but I'm like, but I'm also that, because I'm like, I use fucking words, I'm like, I reference Eminem or something, and he would probably get like pitchforked in 2020,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I'm kind of like, well, that's just his expression, man. Like, why can't we just like, I don't know, like
I
I feel
think
like we all, yeah,
everyone's expressing themselves. Bruce said, yeah, to comment on the. I get it too. I totally get the red pixel thing. I just think that the reason why red squares are cool in the art world, and a lot of people would disagree with me, or at least art world people get them, is there is some level of craft. I don't think, and I could be wrong, but I don't think anyone's just ever printed off a red square and sold it. It's always been hands done. It's always been, there's always some level of skill and attention that's gone into it, into the minimalism. Turning a pixel red is not,
and
it's not a difficult thing to do. There's no like, I can't marvel at any. There's nothing to grab onto other than the fact that it is a red pixel.
that is the artistry in it too, right?
Yeah.
Like when Pac set the 100% like royalties, I was like, okay, that's swag, right? Like that's cool. Like, but I'm also like, I always like my system like rewards people who are just doing something outside the norm. That's kind of like how I'm wired.
Yeah.
Like even when like Cheval
So
Homard.
wait, on the red pixel, it's 100% royalties he gets.
Oh no, that I was talking about the rareable piece.
Ah, okay, okay. Sorry, I thought that's what he was doing. I was like, okay, that's that would have
Yeah,
been
the rareable.
the ultimate.
So it's just. I mean, it's like it is. Yeah, the rareable piece is 100% royalty, so it's just kind of like, it's just like a pissing stream for the ultra wealthy or something,
Yeah.
And it's like if me and Robness eventually sort of become the brahaha, and some like ultra billionaire wants to come in and like piss down a stream of POC, whatever, and like they're welcome to do that, right?
Yeah.
But it's kind of like it always goes to the royalties, and hopefully by that point, honestly, like POC will start to fucking reinvest in some artists, And I feel like that's kind of a lot of like what I do is like I read the sentiment of people, like I talk to collectors, I talk to artists, and there's just certain things that you kind of like hear in the chatter, you know, and then that's what I make art about. It's sort of like the things that I hear in the chatter, like even on a collector level, like I was talking to a collector and he was just like, this motherfucker coming in me trying to tell me like, oh, blah, blah. And there's like wash bidding. And that's actually started a lot of that. And I was like, but I was just like, what, he thinks like you're an idiot? You know, it's like, that's kind of the thing is I'm just like, oh, people think that like we're idiots or like idiots or, you know, and we're just like, and yes, not false, you know, but at the same time, I'm just kind of like, I don't know. I just respect the individuals so goddamn much, man. Where
Yeah.
I just was, where I'm just kind of like, I don't know. Maybe it's the like I don't have children, right? So it's you know I'm like 41 years old, and I just kind of like throw everybody into the pool, and I'm like, learn, bitch, you know, you know. That's the like the father way of just being like, no, like go through some of this stuff, like go through like 2 years of this with the different waves, you know, and then you can talk to me because the way you'll come at me is different
Yeah.
than if somebody like came up on the scene and or whatever, or you know, like or like a collector just like really loves your shit for a second and then you're dropped off, you know. So I'm kind of like, no, man, like get in the game, you know, like
Yeah.
that's me talking out of my
No. I thought it was interesting, and so this is we kind of spoke about this a bit, but how do you think we can kind of expand the market? And we talked about crypto art Twitter already, so we'll just how do you think we can expand the market? How do you think that we can bring new people in? And yeah, what do you think would be the best way to go about that?
any way possible, make it interesting, you know, like, and I think like make it interesting on all the levels. I'm making it interesting financially, make it interesting visually, make it interesting. Um, like it's a completely new hydra of a beast that's entering the consciousness of the world, right? And it's like everyone's like, oh, it's a monster, oh, it's an angel, you know, whatever. And it's like, well, it's all of those and then none of those, and then we get to determine what it is. And like, you know, for me, I have something like brewing, and like basically like at this point I'm just like I'm just gonna have fun. I'm just gonna have fun, you know, because it's kind of like if you know a heat wave burns me up today or Hawk shows up with his posse and shoots me, you know, like whatever. Like I don't care because I'm having as much fun right now in this moment as I will the rest of the fucking journey. And it's kind of like, and it's interesting. It's just, you know, for me, it's like me and Robness are like laughing our fucking asses off because there's something like we have that we, you know, and it's just like we laugh about it too because we're both just kind of like you know, we're just like I don't know dick about like the inner workings of like blockchain or whatever,
Yeah.
and I don't know dick about like the art world and sort of the like how things flow, and you know, we're just like, oh, you know, let's have some fun, and that's just basically like what we're doing, and like, and I think you know we're gonna keep continuing doing that, and you know if somebody's like mad about something, it's just like to my friends, I'm just kind of like use that anger and just like use it as fuel, you know what I mean, like put that right back in and then just like do something about it. Like, and I'm quoting, like this is fucking lame, but I'm quoting Matty Moe, you know, who he had an after show after last year's show, so he came to my gal, or like he, and it's all sort of like intermingled, just like all this stuff. Like he basically was there, and he was kind of like siphoning off of like Summit, which is you know another one of those like very fancy, wealthy people, and blah blah blah. And I met like Branson through them, and all these people, and like, um, he walked into a gallery, you know, that he couldn't get an art show in, and he walked in there with like a duffel bag of $1 million in cash, and he just dragged it around, and all of a sudden people started talking to him, you know. And it's kind of like and it was this whole thing, and you know he got on the like BuzzFeed or whatever about it, and he kept, like there's just this moment in this video, and I love Maddie for this, is just he's kind of like, you know, he's just the way he says it is like I'll you know I'll make maybe a mockery of it or something, but or do it badly, but he's like, well, why don't you do it then, you know. It's kind of like people who are like, if they think that like they can pull that off, right? And this is kind of like a moment of like, all right, Pac, like he did that, right? And it's like, if anyone else tries to pull it off now, it's just like, well, you're just fucking, you know, you're just trying to be Pac again, or you know what I mean? So it's like there's a level of just hitting the right zeitgeist, ghost nugs, spicy nugs, saucy nugs, whatever, like thing at the right moment, and hopefully it turns out for the best, and
Yeah.
like I feel like Pac's probably not starving, unless he's in one of those countries where like gangsters like are like, make more crypto, motherfucker, like
That's
just
actually
like
what's going on.
right, like goddamn, like I've actually thought about it. I was like, what if he's actually like feeding people like actual potatoes, and here's this asshole like online pretending to be Potato Man, and I'm like, but that's the thing, like you never really like know like who somebody is until you've like kind of did some drugs with them at a party or something, or like,
Yeah.
but that's
No,
my
so the next question is, what message do you want to get across with your artwork? And we've touched on this like quite a lot, but yeah, like kind of, is there anything that you're trying to get across? Is there anything that you're intending to put out in the world when you create?
It's an interesting question. Like Rizzle asked me a question that kind of like was like, whoa, I don't know how to, and this one of those. So well done, sir.
Thanks.
It's such a meta question, right? It's such a fucking meta question. Is like, I mean, I guess I'll just sort of take it down to like my level, and I feel like this is where sort of like I think some of like Banksy stuff, I don't really like fuck with it anymore that much because I think it's a little trite. But at the same time, I'm like, I kind of get the what he's doing is what he's saying, and this is sort of like we're all swimming in this shit. This is kind of like my last piece on Super Rare before I got banned for the second time. Hey, y'all want to throw me back on there third time? Let's rumble, But like I don't think that's gonna happen. Because like basically like that's because I could tell I was about to get banned, right? Because they have like they got money coming in, and they had like, and that's not all of it. They're just, they're doing their thing, but like I remember like the last two pieces I made on there were just like, okay, the hammer could be hitting like literally like any moment. I know like it's this weird 4-day thing with whale shark or whatever, but it's like, and I was just like, okay, well, like what can I slip in there? Like what could be my legacy on that platform, right? And like my last piece on there is called Keep It Real, right? And it's just like literally like me in Vegas as all this shit's going down. I just like write it, and I like, but I kind of take an extra moment to be like, okay, well, I do want it to be like aesthetically something interesting. So like I fuck it up a little bit, and I put it out there, and it's kind of like it's just like my message to the world is like keep it real, like we don't, like all these different things that all these things are about. They're so much deeper than what everybody else thinks they're about, or who have not been in the scene or have not had the conversations that they've had, and I was just kind of like, what could be the thing that I just like remind everybody to do? And it's just like, and it's it's the dumbest, like keep it real. Like, what does that mean? But like, keep it real is like, no, like keep it real, man. Like, let's talk about shit. Like, let's do things. Like let's have real conversations about shit that maybe don't feel good, but are about something real. And I feel like a lot of my art is a lot about that. It's sort of like, man, like we're all so used to not keeping it real because we're like we have to or keep a roof over our heads or whatever, and it's just like all these fucking things, and it's kind of like I feel like the Matrix and Fight Club and these different things kind of get to a heart of some of the things that like they kind of there's something, right? That thing, like these things that people aren't talking about, or the fact that like even I right now on like a piece of magical device made out of parts that their supply chains probably went through, let's not talk about it, or like who suffered and whatever. And I'm just like, fuck, man, like what are we doing this for? You know what I mean? Like let's have real fucking conversations, and not the pre-prescribed conversations that are being fed to us by the fucking media about bullshit, Like I can't stand that stuff. It's like I feel like a lot of what like the crypto thing is about is being like, yeah, no, like that's bullshit too, and yeah.
Well, I mean, everyone who I've spoken to on this channel has been a plethora of different ideas, different perspectives on things, and I think that's why YouTube as a whole is kind of on the rise. It's because people are interested in listening to proper conversations, real conversations between people, which aren't filtered by stuff. Because I mean, that's what I wanted this to be. Is I that's why I'm not. I don't want this just to be a shill fest. That wouldn't be entertaining for anyone to watch. I want this to be like a real conversation between artists and you know, and getting to know people, because you can't know people on Twitter. Like everything gets taken to its worst possible
For sure, for sure.
interpretation. Um, yeah. So okay. So that's actually, yeah. Next question. You're very outspoken. You always speak your mind. How do you think others can do this, and how can other people be brave? Because I think a lot of people are scared to say what they actually think, but then find when they do, it's actually not that bad. But yeah, how would you suggest that people kind of to do that?
I mean, that's like saying like I can't teach courage, man. You know, and it's like, it's the same thing with me. It's like no one can teach me courage. It's just the like, you know, even the etymology of the word, like core rage, you know, core heart, rage of the heart, and it's like it's the rage of the heart. What we're all here to do. It's sort of like, you know, one of my favorite sort of like lines is I think Terence McKenna. It says like nature rewards courage. And you know, I think there's a lot of truth to that. It's not the full truth, and maybe, you know, but it's like we are here to do that. We are here to stand up in our fucking sovereignty and be like, yo, I see this shit feels weird, you know, and it's like and the more of us do that, the more of us have the courage to like kind of like rise up from the bullshit and like I don't know, like support each other in the real, and then like, you know, because like for me, I guess like one of the things that I sort of deal with is like I'm one individual, you know, and like that my avatar before it became the lightning bolt was like the artist is one man, right? It's kind of like it speaks to that. It's just like how do you as a human being on this planet like affect all the shit that you just know deep down ain't right, you know? And it's like, I don't know, but it's kind of, you know, it's like, I guess it's just like trusting in that the plants that I've ingested that are still illegal for us to ingest, like something out of the fucking ground, you know, but it's like, it's not about that, obviously. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just like, if I can for like a minute do it to a level where other people can see it and do it, and we can all do it, and we can all sort of like come together at the, you know, at the table of humanity and fucking reorganize what's actually happening. And, you know, but that even that itself is like becomes instantly too simplistic, you know, because it's like there's just so many different like games, you know, and like levels of influence and power and but I don't know, it's like there's a level of aliveness. It's like when there's like in Isla Mujeres in Mexico, there's like a restaurant and it had like a little placard, you know, and I think it was like not mofongo, but it was something like that. And it was just like a word that I think maybe they invented and it was the name of this thing. And it was kind of like, it's like that moment when you sort of like, in a sense, it's like you stare death in the face and you're saying like, well, I'm here anyway, you know, and you kind of like do a thing that you don't have control over the consequences of how it'll pan out in the real world. But there's something within you that just says like, you know, it's like, all right. You know, and that's kind of like what like the wash trade is with Robinson. We're like, we don't know what this is, but like I actually really like what it did because I think it kind of like caused a conversation that people were kind of like, you know, it's like and that's the part about like Banksy's show that I appreciate. It's just like he literally put the fucking elephant in the room, you know.
Yeah. So wait,
and I'm like,
the wash trade that you did was the hot potato, right? Was that what? Talk a little bit about that on Rarity, right?
yeah, basically like, okay, so here's kind of like what happened is like Robinus and I have been like, you know, fucking just like doing it like for months and months and months and like, you know, making art, and we're kind of like cast out of the establishment in a way, or like we're cast out of like Super Rare and like, you know, so like literally I'm just kind of like, well, I gotta eat, man, you know, like I gotta come up with something interesting for somebody to buy, you know. And then there's an added layer to it too of like pricing and stuff that was like super fucking, you know, I was just like, I just got to do this. And this was this churn of the whole thing, you know, it was just like kind of figure out where to like price it, where it will sell, where I can like make sure to keep a roof over my head and like, you know, my family is taken care of. But it was like, it was harrowing for a while, you know. And this is like kind of what, for me, I feel like maybe it's just like a rite of passage for like artists who are like really, you know, like for me, no one can say shit to me because I'm like, I've lived and died for my art, because I literally was like fucking eating out of the trash on the street, being like, if I can't do it through my art, then fucking kill me, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and that's basically like what it is for me. It's like my art is like my forever mistress of like, and I will like, I've already given my life to her or to it or to, you know, and then like, you know, some baby will want to like come and see what, find out what that is, like great. But like at the same time, I'm like, you know, I'm like, I'm fucking, my life experience, and you know, I'll tell you that straight up, is just like, I definitely didn't take the easy path, and like, and same thing with Robness. I feel like we both are like, we're not taking the easy path, and like we, you know, like I haven't sold shit for a while. Like I like honestly like Rarible, you know, I think I have like $400 left in there or something, because like, and I had thousands, and I basically was just like, I'm just gonna like throw down on art right now, and I'm just gonna like, and yeah, like the Rari mining some of it, but like literally is just more about like supporting artists, like far more, right? It's like, and hopefully history will reward us or whatever. But then what are we going to do with it? We're going to like throw it back into, you know, into the people who, like, one of my favorite pieces of art I got from this kid from South America. And, you know, he was just like, oh, I'm going to go get food with it. Right. And I'm like, fuck yeah. Cause he did like this FEMA piece, which I was like this like gangster, you know, I was like, feels right. Like, he was like the right commentary, you know, using the tools that he's got. And it's kind of like, I love Osinachi for it too. You know, it's just like, here's the tools he's got, here's the commentary. And like, you know, hopefully he's like throwing it back into his community, into other artists and stuff. I don't, you know, I haven't actually met the guy. I really hope we get to. And, you know, all these artists, anyone that I have, like, it may seem like I have beef with them, but like, if it is, it's because I'm standing for a specific thing. And I'm just kind of like, okay, like, will you come and talk to me about it? Like, can we have some beers and like figure out how what I can bring to the table can help what you're going through, and vice versa, and all that shit, you know? And like, and this isn't even touching on the fact that it's like, this is sort of like, to me, this is very like masculine, like this thing that I'm talking about, you know? It's like, that's not even touching on the fact that like all these like different women are like, you know, because I've had some, like today this guy was kind of like I felt uncomfortable, and I was like, God damn, they go through this shit like their whole lives, and they're, you know, it's like bringing women, or not bringing women, just like allowing them to be expressive in ways that they feel safe to express themselves. And you know, like even this whole thing of like woke, like I'm beginning to really like understand that like I really don't know what a lot of their worlds are like, and to come into this game where it's just like, you know, dicks swinging at each other, you know, they're probably just like, what that is, you know. And but I don't know, I don't want to put that into their, you know, I'm like, I don't want to speak for them. That's one of the things where, you know, we're sort of so I'm really excited to like actually watch the like, however that comes about, the wave of actual like you know, egalitarianist equality of expressions that are like more feminine, and like that gets hairy too, because I'm like, what is feminine? Like, what is all that? You know, because at the same time, I'm also like, yeah, this is where it gets too like language sort of loses its grip on,
well, there's a point at which you can't express yourself with words quite right. There's almost not enough words in the lexicon to kind of get across the point that sometimes trying to be made. I know what you mean. You need to invent some new ones.
Right? And it's like, make art about it. That's kind of like, that's my big fuck you to everybody, is like, make art about it, right? Like, because the thing is, like, even people, like, it's funny, like, watching some of these cats that are just like, well, I'm gonna make art about it, but it's like, it's purposely not good art. And I'm just like, is it not? You know, like, it's kind of like,
it's almost impossible to
at a piece of art you made.
If that was your intention going in, because you've already intended to create something with a purpose.
Like we're at a
All right. Are there any questions for Max? And yeah, so, I mean, I've run out of questions on the board. I was just, is there anything else that you kind of want to add or talk about?
Oh man, this is, feels very serious. What am I
It's not
serious
serious.
about? What
Not
am I
serious at
serious
all.
about?
Yeah.
I'm very serious about the boneless wings thing, saucy nugs, misnaming things.
It's
I don't
really,
know,
very,
man.
very
Like
vital stuff.
this is it's like we're coming out of COVID season, and it's like very. I
How
don't
is
know.
it?
Like I
How is
feel
it there
like
at the
there's.
moment with that? How has that been in LA?
I mean, and it's like crucify me for this shit, right? But it's like I don't know, man. I've traveled outside of this dimension enough to know that like my sphere of influence is like all of this, and so like I don't know. I kind of I look at it all and I'm just like macabre, right? But at the same time, I'm like, how much of my like fear is driving this shit, and like um I don't know. It's getting better, but I don't know if they're gonna clamp down on us again for whatever. But like,
They're coming for you right
I
now.
don't. Yeah, right. Like you
Yeah,
hear it. It's like
yeah.
fucking like. But that's the thing. That's this environment, right? It's just like there's like helicopters all the time, and I'm just like, who? And I've done enough shit where I'm just kind of like, is it fucking fun? Did they fucking send helicopters for me this time? But like, but dumb shit like being like, I'm gonna like take some tasty substances and walk around, and people, and these cats show up, and they're like, and I'm just like, poor K, and they're like, you looked at a bag under a tree, and I was like, keep it real, bro, like keep it real.
Yeah, I think some people are enjoying the power a little bit too much that this whole emergency has given them. But
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but that's that gets into like, oops, what happened to Sasha and Max territory. So
Yeah.
let's keep it about art.
Yes. So Uranus Oyster asks, how do you think this is going to end with whales versus peons?
I love the like just even using the word peons. It's like, right, I'm like, who knows, right? It's like who knows how, but this is like a reflection of the whole thing. Is like, how does it end, like I remember driving through like Dallas one time, and I watched like 12 different like men, who were from Mexico, basically like fulfilling this one guy's dumb shit vision about what his fucking hedges should look like, and I was just like, Jesus fucking Christ, man, how fucked up is that? And this probably doesn't give a shit about it. It's like Bezos or something. He's just like eating his chicken nuggets or something. Probably not. I don't think he eats chicken nuggets, but like, it's he's having some like saucy nugs or something. And he's just like, this is not of the. And then he has like 300,000 people like making sure that his saucy nuggets are like exactly how Bezos wants it. And I'm just like, for what? So he can go to the like country club and talk to Bill Gates about how his whatever in the. And I'm just like, macabre dog,
Yeah.
macabre.
But yeah, so but how do you think it's going to end in crypto art specifically between the whales and kind of the ordinary people of the whales and like where do you think this goes?
So Robinus and I have like really pissed off the whales very, very obviously because the big sales aren't coming. Like, and that's, and it's like, it's kind of like, I'm basically just kind of like, just sort of like, what are you made of? Like everyone, really. It's like, if these whales, like I feel like if I'm to be in the history annals of this thing, it's already the case, right? And it's like I don't have to fucking babysit that thing. So then it can just like, I'm taking myself very seriously right now, trying to ask that in a different way. I wanna like
Okay,
hear it in a different way.
so I guess the question would be like, where do you think the what do you think the logical conclusion is of this kind of infighting between the whales and the artists? Do you think that bigger whales will come in and they'll see their behavior and they'll think, okay, maybe I'm more interested in collecting, maybe I'm more interested in the artist exactly? or do you think that the artists will eventually kind of reach a logical conclusion of burning themselves out of the sales, or what do you think? Yeah, in that sense, I guess that's a different way of wording it.
Um, I'll say it like this, right? Like if the whales want to become irrelevant by not collecting crypto art, they're very fucking welcome to do it all day long. And that's what I'll say about that. It's like this juggernaut is too big, right? Like, and there's certain moves that I make when I realize I'm at a position where I'm at a certain like level, like the wash trade. Like we wouldn't have done that if we weren't at a certain position with it, right? And it was risky, but at the same time, it was kind of like, well, if we do it, it's a whole different thing than if anybody else does it. And then like, let's have some fun with it, you know. And it kind of like it sparks a lot more controversy. So it's kind of like I feel like Robin probably feels this too. I don't know. He can speak for himself, but it's like I'm kind of at a point where I'm like, the juggernaut is already too big.
Yeah.
So for me, like the long tail of this shit is where it becomes interesting. You know, it's kind of like even like people on Rarible, they're talking about distribution, and they're like, okay, well, these whales, like they ate 90% of the thing with this one wash trade, you know. And I'm kind of like, and Alex basically came in and was just like, no, 10%, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, right, yeah, it's like that. It's like we even think that their influence is bigger, but it's not, because the long tail, you know. And I know this shit from like search engine days and shit. I was just like, you know, learning about like page ranks and things, and it's like now the swell is too big for anyone to like control it, you know. And I think that speaks to like the decentralization aspect of it. Is just like, I think personally, I just think Rarible is like in the position to become like a huge juggernaut, you know. And it's because of what they've already done like for artists, you know. It's kind of like they've already
Oh, I'm losing you a little bit.
a lot of people are talking about it. It's just, it's like it's too distributed at this point. Oh,
so that's okay. So Euron essentially said, he elaborated a bit. I think it's either going to be a split, or some top end platforms are going to crash. I'd be really surprised if there was a reconciliation. So yeah, I mean, what do you think about that? Do you think that the ones that, because this has been my opinion from the beginning, I think I think the problem with PAE is our you know, we've only got 1,000, 2,000 artworks in comparison to most other platforms. That's almost nothing. So we're until our 2.0 launches fairly soon, our scalability has been pretty limited. So we've kind of, I mean, I actually almost feel like we haven't really fully thrown our hat in the ring. People have been kind of waiting to see what we're going to end up being, because we've kind of this whole time still not really got there yet. And we finally are getting there. But do you think that the platforms that rely too heavily on whales are going to find themselves eventually without any buyers?
I mean, if we're talking about super rare, which I think we are, it's like I feel like
I guess
there
we could
are.
also be talking about Nifty Gateway, although I don't know much about their whole model, to be honest.
I don't know, man. Like, I mean, neither, right? I'm like, but basically, like, I think they're both gonna be okay, right?
Yeah.
Like, I basically think that, like, that's kind of like what my TLDR on is. Like, they're gonna be okay, you know, with or without me. They're gonna be fine with, and like, because they got their thing, you know. Like for me, it's like, you know, Super is already sort of like, they pioneered so much shit that, you know, they went through the thick and thin of, like, as I'm sure you have, of just like in the trenches and doing all that different shit, you know. So it's like they're gonna be fine, I think. And so is Nifty. Nifty is kind of this like, I don't know. I mean, like, they're an interesting beast to watch, you know.
Nifty
But I'm
is
kind of
very
like,
interesting. They seem to have come up from nowhere and kind of conjured buyers from nowhere. But I guess when you are those people, you can do that quite easily. I mean,
by nowhere, you know. It's like that's the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like,
yeah.
But it's kind of, it's the street cred, right? It's kind of like, it's like, you know, you listen to any fucking real music or whatever. It's like, I mean, it's all real music, but it's like, and that's the hardest thing to pin down is to kind of like, you know, if it's just a bunch of wankers like at a country club, like blah blah blah. No, like there's it's not as interesting as somebody who spent, you know, like a whole month just like making art because they felt something like real fucking inside, and they're just like, I gotta do, you know. And this is like one of these cats. I just, like, as soon as I saw the artwork, I was like, holy shit, this is amazing, right? And I don't know if they're still dropping during my show. Like I kind of I was thinking about getting like an old Gateway computer, you know.
Yeah.
And just like spray painting it like green or whatever the fuck their color is, and just being like, we're doing a nifty Gateway drop during the show, you know, and just dropping it on the floor, you know. I'm just like, there it is. Yeah. it's kind of like, it's, you know, I don't know, like they're doing their thing, but you know, I don't know. It's this, you know, it's another. It's like a hype machine. It's like Boiler Room or whatever, and they have it in, you know, they're. I don't know. They got people. The way that I see it is like they got people who are just like kind of like bored, you know, and they want something to do on their computers because they have too much money, you know. And it's kind of like. But I also fit the description. I'm just, you know, trying to hopefully support people who were where I was when it was a lot more difficult, you know. So. And at the same time, still swag it out and still have like stupid shows called Rari Gang and, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
I look like I'm in. My computer was dying, so I.
Oh right, okay. I was wondering what was happening. It suddenly kind of went into the darkness. All right, cool. Yeah. Are there any other questions? I think we've covered quite a lot of stuff. Is there anything else that you kind of wanna finish on, or?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, like. I'm thinking about like Saucy Nugs, and I'm also honestly like that's just a cover for like, I don't know, just getting laid by like somebody who doesn't bore me, you know. And that's kind of like, and that's currently that is the most interesting sub challenge of my life, because it's kind of like, well, I'll just do art, you know, and then like, I don't know, like you know, somebody in your town, you know, introduce her to crypto art.
So we actually got two more questions in. One from Bruce the Goose. I think it's really moving really quickly towards platforms being made for artists by artists. The gatekept platforms are buy money for money, and that can't last once real collectors hit the space. I completely agree with that, Bruce. And I've been trying with BAE 2.0. The initial one that you see now has a lot of limitations, and most of the curation aspect is down to necessity because it's a little bit of a complex beast. So just letting people come on and upload stuff, I think, would break the website quite quickly. So we tried to 2.0 is definitely something which we're excited about. We're going to be following the more open principle with that, but I completely agree that once the real art collectors, I think we spoke about it a little bit, didn't we, Max? When the real art collectors hit this market, it's going to change it a lot.
And I just want to like acknowledge you, just like props to sort of, and I don't even know how to say it, but it's kind of like, you know, in this whole thing and everything, and like I feel like you've held this like edge to like having Mr. Yuck on the platform and having like, and standing with like Tom, and, you know, just sort of like there's this article that Paul Graham wrote. Fuck is it? It's like he's like the Y Combinator startup dude, you know, and like he thinks very deeply about some things, and he was talking about sort of like the fashions of the day, right? It's like the fashions of the day are to like call everybody like a racist and a sexist and whatever and all this different shit, you know, and it's kind of like, well, that's just what everybody's wearing, you know, and it's like, cool, all right, well, can we like get beyond just that, you know, and like, but then it also gets like people don't do it because it's hairy. It gets like really fucking hairy to actually like do that, you know. So like, but yeah, it's just like these are like fashions of the day, you know. And I feel from you like just personally, like I feel like you've held this space within yourself for, and probably from your understanding of like real like OG art world shit or whatever, you know, you came from. But I'm like, it's like you kind of like get like something, and you get something about, and you know, and I feel like even like Robness, because I didn't really like the website, you know, when he launched it, it was like, you know, but I get it, like my first website was like whatever, but he was just kind of like, no, this guy's like,
Oh
you
yeah,
know, and I've over time,
what I've done, I mean, like I said, the smart contract, the story of the BAE in a nutshell is we had funding, we built an awesome smart contract, we lost funding, um, and then I wasn't just going to give up, so I built the front end myself in a WordPress, and that's why what you see right now isn't that great. But we've finally saved up enough profit. What's coming next is going to be something much more familiar in the sense of kind of crypto art and things like that. And also, Bruce, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Yeah, so we should be able to scale a lot faster. We're planning to launch with commission-free auctions, which I don't think anyone does yet. So that's quite exciting. But yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, fuck it. I'm like, I trust everybody to just like do them and get pissed off about things that they don't like, and then do things about them, and then we all get to play in these like things. And hold on, right now I'm looking up like this is how.
But that's back to the art side of things. Uranus Oyster asks, when you do a new piece, is it planned, thought out, or is it really spur of the moment?
It is. I'm like I'm like what you see. Like I spent so much of my time just like cutting away all the bullshit other than the right here and the right now. You know, and people are like, even this, like I made sort of an exception because I was like, okay, here's a thing in future time space that now I'm responsible for to do because I respect you. And you know, and it's kind of like I just don't do that shit, man. Like I kind of just like whatever's here, I just sort of like with a single breath of whatever, I just like, and then I, you know, and that's the hard thing too, is because like I started making this specific sort of genre of art, and I just started to feel like really like limited by it, because I was like, okay, this is what people are buying on Rarible, and like it's, you know, it's like people are like buying, they love this shit, and it's like boom 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 boom, right? But it's, and then I was kind of like, if you look at my like recent stuff, like no one's bought it, and I'm like, yeah, like I know I'm doing something that, you know, people don't quite know what to do with. So like, and that's kind of like my whole thing, is just to keep doing it and keep doing that kind of thing. Because like at this level, like I think like Robness and I would like really have to like, I don't know what we'd have to do to, I don't know, stop having fun or something, you know, like I don't know, like if I was to like bury myself into the annals of like, you know, the first wave of crypto art or something, all right, but it's too much fun to like stay in it, you know. But it's kind of like the rap game in the sense of just like, okay, just like outdo myself, because I'm like, I don't want to get stuck in the same ruts, and I want to like explore styles and do things that, you know, people like don't really know where, like, what the fuck is that? But like that to me is the best art, is it kind of like strikes you and you're like, you know, and like, and you're trying to like process it or something, and you kind of like become awake in that moment.
Yeah. You want to kind of come back to it later, sort of thing, like almost pushing the envelope of creativity, so people see something brand new.
Yeah. Exactly, and that's kind of the like what you just said reminded me of like Terence McKenna talking about like mushrooms and talking about hallucinogens. Is like it is pushing the envelope of creativity forward for humanity, and it's like that's what, you know, like that's basically like my go-to, is just like I'll eat some hallucinogens, and kind of like it helps me make a lot more connections within my own experience.
I don't know how you can use a computer after taking mushrooms. I can barely roll a cigarette, let alone do something like that.
I mean, it's definitely a it's, you know, I mean, like if basically like to Pac or anyone, I'm just like, okay, like eat mushrooms every day for 2 years.
Let's see what happens.
Burn your entire you burn your entire life down, eat San Pedro on the streets, walking barefoot for months, you know, and then come and talk to me, because I'm like, because I know when you come, you're just gonna be in all love, and like everything else is just like chaff, and I'm just like, fuck all that shit, right? Like, it's kind of, I don't know, I'm like, I'm in a weird way, I guess, sort of like all about the sort of hero's journey, but it's just like my particular form of it is through, you know, time travel using compounds that don't quite fit in this dimension.
So, Space Painter says, I've heard you have a exciting collab about to drop. Is that true?
There are several actually,
Yeah.
and I think there's several, and one of them is like really. I'm just like, what is this gonna be about? Because I already tell that it's gonna be interesting. I don't know, like, yeah, just surfing the zeitgeist of like what's current and popping, and then like if I don't get to LOL with like Robness on Telegram or some people who are like, I see what you did or whatever, then I don't know, like you'll get a Home Depot job and sell 64-gallon toters that are not as cool as the one that Robness got banned for, you know?
That's the alternative. Guys, Home Depot and sell trash cans. If I can't be a
if like
trash
that would be
artist,
that would be fucking poetic justice, right? It's like if everyone else is right and I'm wrong, and I literally just have to fucking just sell 64-gallon toters that are not photo moshed, that I'm just like, yeah, it's just the
you get
price,
fired
man.
from that job because you're there at the back painting all the toters.
Yeah, right. I'll be like trying to be like Rosebud of my youth, like trying to like put it in the air and make it have like DMT edges or something.
Well, it's been a really nice stream. It's been really good to talk to you. Yeah, I keep saying this, but it's any final thoughts.
Final thoughts, man. Like that's my like last breath. What would I say? I love Ashley. Like I'd probably say that. Hopefully she hears that one day and just realizes like how beautiful that was, and then so has everything else. Like honestly, like I kind of like thank you all of this for everything that it's already been, and I can only imagine the next waves of it. I just want to do it, a little more elegantly, hopefully, but not, because there's nothing like really lost in time. It's all like really fucking beautiful, So.
And where can people find you? What's your kind of plugs of your social media, all that sort of standard stuff?
I don't know, like I'm like ask your friends like who's hot in crypto art right now. I don't know, like, and if it's not me, then like I failed. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of I'm very like yeah, Osiris, man. I don't know.
Yeah. Is it Oris or Osiris? I always said Max Osiris because I thought that sounded cool. But
yeah, I mean, I would say like Osiris if we're like trying to be declarative. I would say like Osiris, like if you can be like Pac or something, or I don't know, somebody, and then I would bleep it if it's the other kind, which is really like what this really is about, is like I haven't got laid in months, so I'm gonna keep being awful
until
somebody finds me and is like, I gotta shut this motherfucker up with my pussy, like otherwise the world's gonna burn. And like the last person that's like that, like it's like I love her still. If she wants to show up, that's cool. But like
that's
hopefully,
I guess that must be pretty hard being in lockdown. It's kind of government enforced celibacy.
I mean, like enforced celibacy is what I would kind of term this whole thing. But I guess we'll just keep making art about it.
All right. Well, thank you all for watching so much, and I'll see you on the next one. Later this week we have Lands King coming on, but it's been great. I've put links to Max's website in the chat.